Anybody who clicked on this video hoping to learn how to do some harsh vocals for a sweet metal band, you're gonna be disappointed. But for fans of retro beat-em-ups, have I got a treat for you. Today, I'm gonna be talking about Growl. I'm sure some of you are thinking to yourself, I don't remember that game. And don't worry, you're not alone. It's a bit more obscure, and while it was released in Japanese arcades as Runark in 1990, that was shortly before a little game known as Street Fighter II came out and changed the way we played games in the arcade. Developed and published by Taito, they were known for releasing games such as Space Invaders, Bubble Bobble, and Arkanoid, but they also had a history with publishing some brawlers as well, in the form of Renegade and the more famous Double Dragon. Cheap plug, check out our Retro Reminiscing, the history of the Double Dragon series, right here on I Dream of Retro Games. You can't see it, but I'm smiling and I've got a thumbs up. Set in the early 20th century, the player controls a forest ranger who must protect the local wildlife from a group of evil poachers who are driving the animals to extinction. So yes, nice reminder that this was the early 90s when many things had to deal with the environment and winners don't use drugs. While a bit unique of a setting for a brawler, it really just boils down to you playing as an Indiana Jones knockoff while fighting other generic baddies. Alright, to be fair, only 2 of the 4 characters that you can pick from are Indiana Jones knockoffs, but the other 2 characters are very uninspired, just some random dude. That lack of inspiration carries further to the fact that the developers didn't even bother to give the characters names, but they do at least have different stats for health, attack strength, and jump height, although I didn't see it make all that much of a difference when actually playing. Opting for the standard and simple 2-button control scheme, you have 1 button to jump, 1 button to attack, and you press both of them to do your special. Specials typically consist of you jumping up in the air to do them, so if you hold up while doing it, you can jump even higher. Something that quickly stood out to me while playing Growl, though, was the fact that the engine was able to handle lots of characters on screen at the same time. I don't just mean being able to play it 4-player, but also the fact that there will be lots of enemies on screen as well. This is most likely because you're just going to see a lot of the same character on screen at the same time, but at least it was something that they tried to do. Maybe it's just because I'm used to playing the home console ports that would reduce the number of characters on screen, but it was refreshing to be able to play a brawler that had lots of enemies coming after me at any given time. Many of the enemies in Growl will also look like something straight out of Indiana Jones, but with one major exception. The game is going to have you fight a lot of women, and this isn't like Double Dragon where you have women coming after you using whips and chains. No, these are women who don't even look like they fit the time period, as they're wearing these dresses with short skirts and high heels. Like, it's very impractical why they would want to fight you. Another odd design decision is the fact that your stand-up combos aren't really all that much existent. You kind of just punch and kick a little bit until the guy falls down. But once they are down on the ground, all of a sudden, all these other combos come alive. That's right, this game wants you to beat people while they're still down. That's right, I'm gonna get more creative with my fighting when the guy's down on his knees and can't defend himself. And you better do it too, because if you wait too long, they're gonna get back up and start fighting again. Don't worry though, you're not just gonna punch, kick, and curb stomp people. There are various weapons that can be picked up, like swords, knives, and guns. Swing a sword, throw a knife, or shoot a gun, there's gonna be more ways to kill your enemies. If you run out of ammo with the gun, then you can use it to pistol whip them. Unless it's the actual pistol, then that one also becomes a throwing weapon. And if that wasn't enough for you, you also have explosive kills where you can use a rocket launcher or grenades. And when the enemies explode, their body parts will scatter about. The final weapon that I'm going to talk about is one that really drives home the fact that this is an Indiana Jones knockoff, because you can find, that's right, you guessed it, a whip. The whips are probably the strongest weapon in the game, as they have a long range and they also attack whoever is behind you at the same time. There's no ammo, so you can just use it forever until you get hit. There are 7 regular stages to go through that have things like docks, a jungle, a cave, or even on top of a train, plus a bonus round that has you smashing crates. To give credit where it's due, the developers did make sure that they wanted to have animals play a part in the gameplay as well. There will be sections in the game where they're being held captive or maybe being mistreated by some people, and once you save them, they will help you. You might have an eagle fly by and peck someone in the eye, a herd of deer trample somebody, or an elephant ram them. To the surprise of no one, this game was designed to eat lots of quarters. You're going to have lots of cheap deaths. The enemies will gang up on you. You'll have a combo that you can't get out of, especially when you're fighting the bosses. Growl didn't want to be outshone by Big Brother Double Dragon, so they decided that they wanted to add elements from that game as well. So now, introducing platforming. Yes, everybody's favorite part of a brawler. When you're in the cave level, you're going to have to be making jumps on moving rocks while there's lava coming after you. Prepare to insert coin as you die again and again. If you're like me, though, you're probably more familiar with the fact that there was a Genesis port that came out in November of 1991. I remember seeing it all the time at the video store to be able to rent, and I thought it looked so cool because there was the gorilla and I thought maybe I got to play as him. It was ported by ITL, aka Imaginative Technology Land, which specialized in doing ports. On the Genesis, they did Aero Flash Bonanza Brothers, Ultimate Quicks, and Chase HQ 2, but they also did a handful of Sega Master System and Game Gear games, and Darius 2 on the Saturn. The first change made to this port is the fact that now they have given the characters actual names. Now, instead of just picking a nameless wonder, you can play as Gen, Burn, Khan, or Jack. The next change made is probably the biggest grievance of them all. The ultimate cardinal sin. They took a 4-player arcade brawler and made it single-player only. Look, I wasn't expecting a full 4-player experience. I know we were still a couple years away from having that 4-player adapter come out on Genesis, but at least do 2-player when you're making a home port. Making the game single-player only did allow for them to be able to have those massive amounts of enemies on screen at the same time, but I gladly would have sacrificed a few more enemies on screen to be able to play with a friend. The graphics do definitely take a major downgrade as well, and as you would expect, there are no voice clips. Being that this is a Sega Genesis game, they did add the fact that you could use the third button for a special. The default settings don't have the standard C jump, B attack, A special, so that's what I switched it to because it is fully customizable and that's what my muscle memory looks for. These special attacks also now take away from your health, but you can regain some by finding apples inside of crates, something that was not in the arcade version. The cave level has also been completely redesigned and now it has a little silhouette effect where you can only see directly near your character, although it still is much less frustrating than the original arcade version. Overall, the Genesis version was much easier than the arcade game as you can regain health and there's not as many of the cheap deaths. It does give you the option to start with more lives and continues, but I found it very easy to complete on my first try. Now, if you're looking to have that arcade experience at home and don't want to play the Genesis version, thankfully there were some re-releases over the years. In Japan in 2005, the PS2 got the Taito Memories collection, which included Runark, the Japanese version of Growl. Taito Memories did get re-released as Taito Legends in both the European and North American markets, and Growl found itself on Taito Legends 2, which was released on Xbox, PS2, and Windows. Australia and Europe got that in 2006, and North America got it in 2007. Unfortunately, like it comes to a lot of these older games, they are not backwards compatible on current systems, and the Windows versions are difficult to get running on modern setups. Also of note is that although the collection does have just a ROM of the arcade game, it has been altered to remove the body parts that fly into the air whenever an enemy is killed by an explosion. This is most likely due to the fact to keep the rating down. More recently, and thankfully currently playable on modern setups, Growl was added in 2020 to the Antstream gaming service. Full disclosure, even though Antstream is a sponsor over at I Dream of Indie Games, our sister channel, they are not a sponsor here, and I actually had just been using the service to play it while I started research on this game. Like other games on the Antstream service, they have added challenges for you to do on top of being able to enjoy the game in its original form, with the exception of the fact that they have altered the explosion deaths on here as well. When I first played the game on Antstream, I thought that my stream was going bad as it would go very pixelated and low resolution whenever it would happen. I felt like, what, it can't handle whenever the explosions? And then I quickly realized that it's just doing the censorship like in the Taito Legends version. And finally, on July 27th, the week that I've recorded this video, Growl is going to be re-released as part of the Arcade Archives collection on both the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. In the end, Growl is a bit of an obscure brawler that really isn't all that special and a bit generic, and that's probably why many people haven't really played it. It has gotten a bit of a second lease on life with some of these more recent re-releases, and it's definitely still worth playing and having some fun with friends, but that means that the Genesis version is out of the question.